Good morning, Barita shareholders. Barita Investment Limited's annual general meeting is now called to order. Madam Secretary, do we have a quorum?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I can confirm that we do have a quorum.
The Secretary has confirmed that we have a quorum and the meeting is therefore properly constituted. Good morning again, everyone. I am Mark Miles, and it is my distinct pleasure as Chairman of the Board of Directors of Barita Investments Limited to extend a warm and heartfelt welcome to each and every one of you. Thanks to recent amendments to the company's Articles of Incorporation and the Companies Act, we now have the exciting opportunity to choose this virtual format for our meetings and connect with you, our valued shareholders, in a whole new way. Although we may be physically apart, please know that our connection and shared purpose remain strong as ever. I am thrilled to note that through the e-platform we are utilizing today, you, our esteemed shareholders, can actively participate in this AGM. You will have the opportunity to view the proceedings, cast your votes on resolutions, and contribute through your comments and questions. For a seamless experience, please refer to the instructions provided in the Shareholders Advisory Notice, which was uploaded to Barita's website and the Jamaica Stock Exchange's website last week. Please note that registration for access to the AGM will remain open throughout the meeting, allowing individuals to join at any time. Now let's discuss the voting process. During the business section of the AGM, where there will be voting on the resolutions, the Secretary will read out each resolution and shareholders will be asked to propose and second the motion for each resolution. Once a resolution has been moved, shareholders will be given 2 minutes to cast their votes. Once the voting period concludes, I will announce the results. To ensure the meeting proceeds in an orderly manner, please be reminded that shareholders and attendees' microphones will be muted for the duration of the meeting. Verbal communication will not be possible except during the question and answer segment. Shareholders who wish to ask their questions during this segment will be allowed to do so. For all other questions and comments, please use the Q&A icon located at the bottom of the screen in accordance with the instructions provided in the Shareholders Advisory Notice. Kindly include your name with your questions or comments. It is important to note that we have allocated 15 minutes to address any questions that you may have after the overview of the company's financials and presentation of the auditor's report. To ensure fairness and allow as many shareholders as possible the opportunity to participate, we kindly request that shareholders submit no more than 2 questions. For shareholders opting to ask their questions verbally, please state your names and ensure your cameras are on. Finally, if any shareholders encounter technical difficulties or have questions or comments regarding the proceedings, we kindly ask that you utilize the help icon to enter your query or state the problem encountered. A member of the technical team will be monitoring and will be ready to assist. Thank you for your cooperation and we look forward to a productive and engaging AGM. We will start the formal proceedings with a prayer and ask Mr. Sean Taylor to lead us in prayer.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for your blessings that you continue to pour out on us. As we start these proceedings, would you direct us? We pray for continued wisdom and direction. We pray that you will help us to keep our mission of staying ahead and growing wealth. Thank you for the ways that you've helped us to stay ahead of the challenges that we face. And we ask that you continue to prosper the work of our hands, that we will continue to add value to our clients, our shareholders, and to our nation. Thank you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Sean. This brings us now to the notice of the meeting. All shareholders are deemed to have received good notice at this meeting, given that the annual report and notice of AGM were first published online on May 9th, 2023. And there have since been notices in the media alerting persons to the fact of the publication of the annual report and notice of AGM and the manner of their distribution to shareholders. I therefore now ask a shareholder to propose and another to second the following resolution: that the notice convening the meeting, having been previously circulated, be taken as read. May I have a proposal? Stephanie Sterling, thank you. Seconder Ramon Small Ferguson, thank you. Shareholders, please now register your votes in the e-platform. You have 2 minutes to do so. The result of the poll is now on screen, and the shareholders have voted in favor of the resolution. I declare the motion carried. Madam Secretary, are there any apologies?
We do have an apology, Mr. Chairman, from Mr. Duncan Stewart, one of our directors, who is unable to attend today's meeting.
Thank you. Please be advised that we have received 3 valid proxies for this AGM. Given that the meeting is being held virtually, The proxy register is not available for viewing. However, shareholders may view the proxy register at a later date by making arrangements with our registrar, the JCSD. At this time, please allow me to introduce to you the distinguished individuals seated at the head table. Starting with Mr. Stephen Philibert, the cornerstone executive entrusted with responsibility for overseeing group finance. Dane Broadber, interim CEO, and Melinda Wallace, chief legal officer and company secretary. Their collective expertise and leadership have contributed significantly to the company's success. It now gives me great pleasure to introduce the members of the board of directors of Barita Investments Limited. As previously mentioned, I am Mark Myers, the chairman. Joining me on the board are a group of highly accomplished individuals, each bringing a wealth of diverse expertise and valuable insights to the organization's strategic decision-making process. Together, we form a cohesive team dedicated to steering Barita Investments Limited towards continued success and growth. The other directors are Paul Simpson, Deputy Chairman, Carl Domville, Chairman of the Audit Committee, Duncan Stewart, Chairman of the Board Investment Committee, James Godfrey, Philip Lee, Robert Drummond, Jason Chambers, and Michael Hilton, Chairman of the Corporate Governance and Conduct Review Committee. I would like now to acknowledge the presence of the following persons: our auditors, BDO Chartered Accountants, represented by Mr. Balvin Van Riel, a partner of the firm. Our registrar, Jamaica Central Securities Depository, represented by Ms. Tiffany Hall and Ms. Ashley Warmington, who have joined us in person. Welcome all. We now turn our attention to the management overview and reporting. So, ladies and gentlemen, even as the crippling effects of COVID-19 have started to abate and we have a return to some sort of normalcy, we have had to contend with other challenges. The Russia and Ukraine conflict has created a number of issues for businesses worldwide, including supply chain issues. It has also led to significant volatility in asset prices, in particular global bonds. This has negatively impacted the sector as many securities dealers have experienced significant losses, which were absorbed in their equity capital. When you add to that the banking instability experienced in a few of the more developed markets, I think it is fair to say that the financial services industry has been facing quite a bit of turmoil in recent times. Despite all of this, Barita has fared quite well and remains one of the strongest financial institutions locally. This is due to a number of strategic decisions that we have taken over the last few years, including bolstering our capital as well as enhancing our corporate governance framework. Mr. Broadber, our interim CEO, will explain to you how we have managed to so ably navigate these challenges, and I now invite him to address you, our valued shareholders, as he seeks to provide a comprehensive overview of the company's operations and strategic plans. Following Mr. Broadber's presentation, we will have the privilege of hearing from Mr. Stephen Philibert, who will enlighten us on the financial performance of the company. Together, their insights will provide a holistic understanding of our organization's current standing and future endeavors. Over to you, Dane.
All right. Thanks, Chair. Morning, shareholders. I'm pleased to give you an overview of your business as it celebrated its 45th year of operation, which also coincided with the 60th birthday of our beloved country. This will set the stage for the discussion of the financial results that will follow. So at Barita, we're bold, smart game changers. This is the core of our brand and our ethos and what defines the approach of our team. Of course, our mission remains staying ahead, growing wealth. And of course, our vision is to revolutionize our customers' relationship with money as we look to democratize wealth, challenge the status quo, and dare to define the future of financial services. So challenging the status quo and daring to define the future of financial services are at the core of the Cornerstone DNA. Now, this slide illustrates where Barita falls within the Cornerstone group. So its structure is highlighted in blue below its parent company, Cornerstone Financial Holdings Limited, which owns 75% of Barita. Barita has a 100% owned subsidiary, Barita Unit Trust Management Limited, with Derrimont being an associated company by virtue of its 20% shareholding. Barita serves as the investment manager for pension funds and the special purpose vehicles Barita Finance Limited and MGR Real Estate Holdings Limited, while Barita Unit Trust Management is the investment manager for the unit trust funds. Now, notably, you'll see where MGR Real Estate Holdings Limited is now under unit trust funds, and that's really reflecting the purchase of MJR by the real estate portfolio. I will talk a bit about that later on. Now, importantly, our parent company Cornerstone would have received a no objection from the BOJ to reorganize as a financial group. Now, that new structure, which is on screen, will see Barita and its subsidiary Barita Unit Trust Management Limited, along with its sister company, Cornerstone Trust and Merchant Bank, under a single financial holding company, as opposed to two separate parents as it was before. We're really excited about this development, while we continue to be licensed. But we believe that this unlocks significant value for Barita and allows us to optimize several aspects of our business. So, before I get into further detail, let me take a while to introduce our management team. So to my right, we have Ramon Small Ferguson. He's the Deputy CEO for Barita and the Managing Director for Barita Unit Trust Management Limited. We have Jeffrey Romans, our Senior Vice President for Risk Management. Sarah Ying Henriquez, our Vice President for Operations. Therese Kettle, our Senior Vice President for Investment Banking. Anne-Marie Walker-Cato, our Vice President for Finance. Percival Hurlett, our Head for Financial Risk. Sonia Owens, our Head for Treasury and Financial Institutions. Ian Anderson, our Vice President for IT. Dave Dixon, our Senior Vice President for Sales and Service. Sansia Thompson, our Vice President for Premium Wealth and Corporate Solutions. Now, of course, the Cornerstone team continues to provide strategic direction and oversight and is led by Paul Simpson, our founder and group CEO, and also includes Jason Chambers, our Chief Investment Officer, Gavin Jordan, our Chief Operating Officer, Malindo Wallace, our Chief Legal and Compliance Officer, Wellan Madan, our Chief Strategy and Business Intelligence Officer, Stephen Philibert, our Chief Financial Officer, Stephanie Murdoch, our Chief Human Resources Officer, and Sabrina Freeman, our Chief Audit Executive. Now, as I mentioned, financial year 2022 was a milestone for us as we celebrated our 45th anniversary. The year was made even more special as it was Jamaica's 60th year of independence, and so our growth story was intricately weaved into the growth and progress of the nation. We would have spotlighted our investment bank initiatives, establishing ourselves as a powerhouse in building Jamaica one deal at a time. Our podcast series and Barita's Foundation community engagement efforts would have enhanced knowledge sharing, solidifying our stance as a company with a purpose. And of course, we'd have had our anniversary activities, which would have included the bell ringing ceremony at the Jamaica Stock Exchange and Customer Appreciation Day at all our retail locations. Now, our customers have always been our top priority. And so for the financial year, the team continues to spread financial empowerment everywhere by making Barita more accessible, convenient, and customer-focused. Our overall Net Promoter Score of 37 is above our strategic target. And what that means is that 37% more of our customers are promoters of Barita than those that would have indicated that we haven't quite won the mover just yet. Now, our drive to delight our customers was made possible by a variety of changes. So first is our platform, Barita Online. Now, we would have made significant changes there, and our customers can now initiate transactions, leave feedback, testimonials, even complaints, and recommendations, and importantly, make updates to their KYC data. We're also pleased to announce that our Barita roadmap has been redesigned and now called Barita GPS for goal-setting products and services. And what that does is allow, through important inquiries into our clients' circumstances, goals, approach to investing, and risk appetite, really crafts an investment profile that's suited for each of our individual clients and serves as an ongoing guide for their investment program. The first phase of our upgrade has been completed, and this has allowed us to roll out our Cambia module. And with our goal of making money work for you, we've successfully launched and in some cases relaunched new products. Our real estate fund was made more accessible by reducing minimum investment amounts and lockup periods. Notably also, the nature of the fund was also changed and was communicated to our clients to include exposure across the real estate spectrum, including greenfield properties and real estate development. Importantly, this affects the type of risk profile as suited for the various clients, given the change in the nature of the exposure. We also launched our FX Accumulator Unit Trust Fund in December, and that provides our valued clients with a lower risk USD investment option to complement our existing US dollar fixed income fund. We would have also provided effective solutions for our corporate clients and really deepened our penetration in that customer segment, and really want to give kudos to our hardworking team. The investment banking unit led over 20 transactions at the end of last financial year, with revenue amounting to over 1.7 billion, while we had a full rollout of our premium wealth unit with increased focus on our corporate clients. Now, in this era of rapid digital evolution, a core element of how we look to democratize wealth is through our digital engagement with our customers. Our educational videos would have sparked curiosity with almost 22 million views across our various platforms, converting what would have otherwise been online spectators now into learners. Our AI chatbot, Barry, elevated customer service, growing interactions by over 120% from the previous year to over 35,000 conversations. And our digitally empowered lead generation strategy would have witnessed a dramatic increase, leading to significantly more booked meetings. Now, our brain trust, of course, is especially important to us at Barita. And so we implemented a number of initiatives to support this drive. Now, chief among them would have been expanding our teams, in particular our project management and our information technology teams, consistent with our digital strategy. Our sales leadership team was also boosted, as we would have onboarded executives with deep experience in the retail and wealth management spaces. Our Cornerstone Leadership Program, which was launched in collaboration with the Mono School of Business, had 6 of our key managers enrolled in the first cohort. We're also proud of our Cornerstone University, which is our team training platform that has a myriad of educational material designed to amplify our team at all levels. Our job rotation strategy has proven to be effective, as our 5 Cornerstone analysts completed the first year of their 2-year rotation within key strategic business units, and have brought fresh perspective and really shown staggering effectiveness in their assignments. This led to some really proud moments for us at Barita. Now, we continue to keep focused on technology, so we have also implemented our IT Incubator initiative. And finally, we have launched our Culture Playbook, which provides information on the building blocks of our shared vision and culture, and takes us into the future while we delight our customers while making money work for them. So, we would have executed our most recent APO would have indicated some capabilities that it would build for us. Now, we've successfully executed on key elements of those objectives, which would include expanding our investment banking underwriting capacity and also adding capacity to the company's principal investments, particularly in alternative investments along the lanes of real estate, private equity, and private credit. Now, that APO, along with others before, would have allowed us to fortify our store of permanent capital, with our capital adequacy ratio now standing at 33.3%, compared to the industry average of 19.9% and a minimum of 10%. Now, what that does is give us significant capacity for growth. It allows us the ability to withstand shocks, and also, very importantly, provides a stable funding base for our investment strategy. So, our capital and our ability to withstand shocks is one element of our resilience. Now, notwithstanding that, we've also taken meaningful steps to protect shareholder value through deliberate investments in our governance, risk, and internal control architecture. And we've done that through investment in our fit-for-purpose risk frameworks, investments in our policy framework to boost our governance, investment in our talent to bring global best practices across our 3 lines of defense, investment in our systems to reduce operational and other non-financial risks, and institutionalization of independence in our board composition and in our internal audit structure. Now, the Barita Foundation, led by its chairman, Gavin Jordan, and executive director, Tankita Chance Wilson, continues to make a significant impact in our communities, in particular focusing on 3 pillars: entrepreneurship, health and well-being, and education and youth development. Now, the foundation would have executed several initiatives throughout the year, and highlighted among them is our inaugural scholarship program, which would have featured the award of 39 scholarships and bursaries, and Barita's partnership with the Central Jamaica Social Development Initiative for an entrepreneurship training program. So in terms of results, our EPS was $2.46, 7% below 2021, and was really reflective of costs associated with our investments in technology and talent, and to aid our future growth, and also the initial effects of the inflationary and elevated rate environment that we would have been experiencing. So, nonetheless, we continue to grow our funds under management. We have also seen our capital adequacy ratio still robust at 33.3%. Now, it's still well above the industry average. It's a little lower than 2021, and this would have reflected the fact that we'd have deployed a lot of the proceeds that we'd have gotten from our APO throughout the year. I spoke about the increase in our funds under management to 337 billion. So looking ahead, we're seeing where inflation is starting to moderate, with domestic inflation seeming as though it will fall within target by the end of 2023. But tight monetary policy, however, is still being maintained across the globe to ensure that inflation remains under control. Now, the most recent report of growth in the US economy was fairly healthy. However, consensus forecasts still point to a slowdown in global growth. We've been seeing some signs of stress, as the chairman would have mentioned, in the US banking system earlier this year. But more recent stress tests would have indicated that the large banks were still resilient. Looking ahead, global growth would have seen that would have been revised downwards and is now expected at around 2.8%. Inflation in the US has moderated, while our domestic inflation is just above target. Interest rates remain elevated, but we've started to see signs of that stabilizing somewhat. Now, in light of what's expected, we continue to maintain our ample capital and liquidity buffers to really position us to take advantage of opportunities. Similarly, we remain committed to our investment strategy, centered on the specific lines of alternative investments that I spoke about before: real estate, private credit, private equity, and infrastructure. And these will really complement the continued allocations to our traditional asset classes. In financial year 2022, would have grown our alternative investment exposure to 16 billion, which now complements the continued allocations that we'll have to traditional asset classes. Now, the reason we focus on alternative investments, would have been informed by several factors. Now, for certain categories of it, it serves as an effective inflation hedge. Their diversification benefits due to the low correlation with traditional assets. Now, that benefit would have served us particularly well this year, as those returns would have offset downturns in traditional assets and business lines. So generally, you'll find that alternative investments tend to have superior risk-adjusted returns over the long term, and that's especially true when you consider the risk mitigating effects of the diversification benefits that it brings. It's insulated from many elements of market risks that are typical among traditional asset classes. And the structure of these are typically embedded in the type of structures that allow the type of funding that can help to facilitate the funding that's necessary for real sector projects that can sustain the long-term development of our country. Now, of course, the trade-off for this is liquidity. And that's why we've been deliberate in ensuring that we have a fit-for-purpose risk framework that takes account of and adequately manages the impact of these exposures. That's why, for example, we're overweighting the most stable form of funding, which is equity, to complement the nature of this element of our investment strategy. So, MGR Real Estate Holdings, which is managed by Barita, would have acquired over 2,000 acres of attractive real estate, which the company is now looking to develop in the coming financial years. And the nature of the developments that will be pursued will include hotel residential, multifamily residential, commercial, warehousing, and other light industrial solutions. So for financial year 2022, we would have generated 2.7 billion in income across the real estate investment strategies. That would have accounted for just over 30% of our revenue. And in that same year, as I mentioned earlier at the top of the presentation, Barita Unit Trust Management's real estate fund would have acquired MGR Real Estate Holdings, which now enables our clients to have access to that strategy and access to the prime collection of real estate that would have been accumulated. Now, the sale price for MGR Real Estate would have been predicated on the value of its assets, and that was netted against the value of its liabilities of MGR at the time of the transaction. Now, the carrying value of that would have increased by 6.2 million US, or about 9.5% of the total assets. But of course, that would have been significant relative to the prior net asset value. So the rise in that carrying value of real estate would have driven the increase in the book value of the MJR shares, and by extension, its carrying value in the real estate portfolio. Now, that was the ultimate source of the increase in value that would have been experienced by unit holders of the fund. And of course, that includes Barita Investments in our capacity also as a significant unit holder in that fund. Now, importantly, we don't expect those types of returns in the fund in the future. Going forward, the fund will enjoy enhanced returns, but more from the opportunistic nature of our real estate holdings and the development phase of our real estate strategy. Now, private credit is among our exposure in this area as well, and these investments would have comprised around 4% of total assets at the end of financial year 2022. Now, in parallel, we're working to give investors exposure to this strategy as well with our private credit fund that we have in the pipeline. So again, I'll emphasize the importance of our strength of capital. That's what really enables, in large part, our investment strategy. So we have a funding profile that's overweight in equity capital, definitely relative to other broker-dealers in Jamaica. And that gives us the greater capacity to really manage any idiosyncratic risks associated with the general effects of the market volatility. And also, importantly, provides a stable funding base for our investment strategy. Now, looking ahead, our vision for the future is fairly simple and relatable. It's designed to make money work for you and democratize wealth. We continue to make strategic investments as we build value, and so you'll see us making these bold moves internally and externally. So we're going to continue to invest in bolstering our brain trust by strengthening the capacity of our team through Cornerstone University, through Cornerstone Leadership, through our Cornerstone Analyst programs. Important is the implementation of our new core system, which is currently underway to future-proof the business and create the foundation for sustained digital engagement. We're going to, of course, continue the next phase of our alternative investment strategy. There's the FHC application and approval for the Cornerstone Group, which is an important step towards improving Barita's efficiency, its governance, and its ability to serve its customers. And of course, we'll continue to launch new investment management products to expand the investment portfolio options for our clients. So the FHC application and approval for the Cornerstone Group is an important step towards improving Barita's efficiency, its governance, and its ability to serve its customers. That will be underpinned by the shared digital journey of the group. Now we're embarking on this digital first journey both internally and externally. And what that means is that as much as possible, the services we create will be available to staff and customers in digital form, powered by underlying digital platforms. The journey starts with building a future-proof, scalable, core investment platform which will lead to faster and more effective ways of serving our customers, the ability to offer new products and services faster. We've also strengthened our IT security infrastructure, and we're on the verge of launching our enterprise data warehouse, which will allow data to move closer to staff and managers who require it for their everyday decisions. The next step in the journey will be to layer on our online and mobile investment platforms. This is already happening elsewhere in the Cornerstone Group. The next stop is Barita. So, as we move forward, we look to optimize both Barita's efficiency and optimize our customers' experience. Now, on the efficiency side of things, we have started already with the business process reengineering exercise, and we're looking to continue to optimize that through progress on the implementation of our core system, optimizing our structure to support agility and innovation, leveraging the capabilities in Barita to serve the group as our sister company enters its growth phase, and we expect that to result in lower effective costs for Barita. And in the meantime, there's a general optimization of our operations. So for example, you'd have seen where we recently consolidated our operations in Montego Bay for greater efficiency and to better serve our customers. Now, on the customer experience side, we've launched our new products. We have given clients more investment options. We have revamped the capabilities of Barita Online. So building on that, we want to take a lot of the difficulty from our onboarding process. We want to increase the breadth of our customer touch points. And importantly, as we reorganize as a financial group, we look forward to the ability to address more of the financial affairs of our customers and optimize the various ways that we're able to serve these customers through our various channels. So, we've mentioned that we've been very deliberate about onboarding and developing our talent through the permeation of our culture as a group. We're going to continue to approach our business with high intensity. We've set about challenging the status quo and defining the future of financial services. Now, that often means walking down roads less traveled, but we've resolved to build something special here and take on the associated challenges head on. So we'll continue to approach our strategic imperatives fiercely while continuing to be the face and the voice of financial and investment education for our clients as we look to democratize wealth. So I'll now turn over to Stephen Philibert, our CFO, to take us through the details of our financial performance.
Thank you very much, Dean. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure to take you through the financial performance of the business. We'll start with a look at the financial year ended September 30th, 2022. And then we'll also take a look at the half year for the current year, that is the period to March. So we'll start with a look at the financial highlights. And it's a real pleasure to be able to say that the trend of record-breaking profits over the period of Cornerstone's ownership of Barita has continued. So you'll see where net profit has gone to 4.2 billion, up 4% relative to 4.1 billion in the prior year. And that's arising from net operating income that is up 10% to 9 billion from 8.1 in the previous year, which more than offsets the increase in our cost to income ratio that you're seeing on screen, 43% in 2022 relative to 38% in 2021. And that emerges because of the investments that we've spoken about in our technology, in our people, that are really putting us in a good position
for our next phases of growth. On the balance sheet side, total assets have moved up to just under 110 billion, up from just over 90 in 2021. That's an increase of 22%. And that's primarily driven by the investment portfolio, which is up 33% to just under 86 billion from 64.4 in 2021. The ROE is down to 12% from 14 in 2021, in spite of the net profit being up and as a result of a higher average equity figure for the 2022 year. As we look at the details of the revenue, look at the revenue breakdown, we start to see some trends emerging and the effects of some of the strategies that we've been deploying. So looking from the bottom of the chart, we see the net interest income in that teal color, which is showing a good trajectory of growth over the 5-year period, but you'll see that it levels off in 2022 at 1.67 billion relative to 1.54 in the prior year, in spite of the aforementioned growth in the balance sheet. And that is emerging because of a compression of net interest margins that we started to see in 2022. It has continued in 2023 and reflects in those numbers as well. But that is because of the changes in the interest rate environment, with the central bank having made increases to target rates in order to address inflationary issues. Above that segment, you see the fees and commission income, and that has grown significantly to become one of the mainstays of the business. That's a strategy that we've deliberately targeted to grow that fee income in the business. Above that is the foreign exchange and translation gains, and we see where that has been higher in prior years, and it is now trending down. That one has to do with just how the FX market is operating at a given point in time. It's not a line item that we target or depend on, but it is one where you take the opportunities that the market presents you from time to time. Above that, we have the fair value and realized gains on investments. So this is where we see the benefit of the alternative investments spoken to a while ago by our interim CEO. They have materially driven the improvement in the performance of the business, and that is why it's a strategy that we intend to maintain and to grow. Operating expenses, I touched on the investments that we're making in both on the staff side, strengthening the team, as well as in our technology. And that manifests in the upward trend that you see in staff costs as well as in administration expenses. And we spoke earlier to the efficiency ratio, which ticked up to 43% in 2022 from 38. But you see, in general, over the 5-year period, we've been able to bring it down from a level around 60% where it had been when Cornerstone took over the management of the business, and brought it down to around that 40% level where it has been a little up or a little down year to year. You will see when we come to the 6-month figures that the upward trend is not a permanent one. You'll see where it starts to abate in the first half of financial year 2023. Net profit performance, we spoke to the increase to 4.2 billion in 2022 over 2021, but also this gives you a good visual depiction of the trend of growth over the 5-year period, which has been significant. You'll also see the return on equity line in blue, where it has trended significantly upward at the outset, but then because of the growth of our equity capital for the important reasons laid out by our interim CEO a while ago, that has brought the ROE down, which we also believe is temporary, and you will see it start to trend up even in the 6-month numbers that we'll get to shortly. Balance sheet performance, or a little bit more detail on the balance sheet side for the year ended September 2022. You'll see here a 5-year trend of growth in investments all the way from 13 billion in 2018 up to 85.9 billion in 2022, and that drives substantially the growth in total assets itself, up from just under 19 to just under 110 billion. That's largely funded by repurchase agreements. It's the main funding source of the business, and you'll see the growth in that line as well, from 14 billion all the way up to just under 60 over the period, and in the most recent year-over-year comparison, up 31%. Shareholders' equity, we've spoken repeatedly to the benefit of being well capitalized, and you see that reflected here with the shareholders' equity moving from 3 billion all the way up to 36 in 2021 and down to 32 in 2022. That decline of 11% is driven predominantly by securities prices in the securities that we hold as fair value through other comprehensive income. That is to say, those declines don't affect the net profit line, but they do impact on the shareholders' equity. We believe likewise that those price movements will normalize over the coming period. We also have information there related to earnings per share and share price. We see that share price has gone up significantly over the 5-year period, although it is relatively flat from 2021 to 2022. And this reflects also in the market capitalization line. And we'll now look at the 6-month period in this year through to March. We'll see that the trend in net operating income increasing has continued. It's up 22% year over year to 5.5 billion from 4.6 in the prior year. And I'd also mentioned the beginning of a reversion to a downward trend in the cost to income ratio, and you see it reflected there at 39% for the first half of this financial year, whereas it was 41% in the first half of the prior financial year. So the net profit outturn to the half-year point is 2.6 billion relative to 2.3 billion in the prior year. On the balance sheet side, total assets have continued to grow. They're up to 120 billion now. At the halfway mark of last year, they were approximately 101 billion. So that's growth of about 19%. Total equity, we see a decrease from the halfway mark of last year from 37.5 to 36.1. But the ROE figure with that slight decline in equity and also driven by the increase in net profit, it has trended upwards to 15% from 14%. So this slide just shows the trend in ROE and profit. We've spoken to that already. So I'll just move to the details on financial position. We'll see here the total investments line, which again is driving that growth in total assets. So we'll see where it's moved from 79 billion to 103 billion at the halfway mark of 2023 relative to prior year. That's an increase of 30%, outpacing the growth in total assets. Repurchase agreements, likewise, has grown at 30%, up to about 67.7 billion from 52.2. So it remains the primary funding source. In addition, we have the shareholders' equity. I spoke on the previous slide to the slight decline. We have market cap down, tracking the share price, which is down from 93 to 80 at this time. Earnings per share is up to $2.16 from $1.90, which is an increase of 14%. And that takes us to the conclusion of the presentation, and I'll hand back to the chairman.
Thank you very much, Dane and Stephen. I will now ask the representative of BDO Chartered Accountants or Auditors, Mr. Balvin Van Riel, to present the report of the auditors.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, shareholders. Independent Auditors Report to the members of Barita Investments Limited. Report on the audit of the financial statements. Opinion. We have audited the consolidated financial statements of Barita Investments Limited and its subsidiary, the group, and the financial statements of Barita Investments Limited, standing alone, the company, set out on pages 158 to 247, which comprise the group's and the company's statement of financial position as at 30th September 2022, and the group's and the company's statements of profit or loss and other comprehensive income, changes in equity, and cash flows for the year then ended, and notes comprising significant accounting policies and other explanatory information. In our opinion, the accompanied financial statements give a true and fair view of the financial position of the group and the company as at 30th of September 2022, and of the group's and the company's financial performance and cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with International Financial Reporting Standards, IFRS, and the requirement of the Jamaican Companies Act. Basis for opinion. We conducted our audit in accordance with International Standards on Auditing, ISAs. Our responsibilities under those standards are further described in the auditor's responsibilities for the audit of the financial statements section of our report. We are independent of the group and the company in accordance with the International Ethics Standards Board for Accountants, the International Code of Ethics for Professional Accountants, including International Independent Standard, the IESBA Code, and we have fulfilled our other ethical responsibilities in accordance with the IESBA Code. We believe that the audit evidence we have obtained is sufficient and appropriate to provide a basis for our opinion. Key audit matters. Key audit matters are those matters that in our professional judgment were of most significance in our audit of the financial statement of the current period. And these matters were addressed in the context of our audit of the financial statement as a whole and informing our opinion thereon, and we do not provide a separate opinion on these matters. Key audit matters continued. Expected credit losses in relation to the financial assets, and reference is made to notes 3F, 4B, and note 5A. The determination of the expected credit losses, ECL, on financial assets is highly subjective and requires management to make significant judgment and estimates involving the application of a forward-looking ECL impairment model, which takes into account reasonable and supportable forward-looking information and will result in the earlier recognition of impairment provisions. These estimates involve information and will result in early recognition of impairment provision. These estimates involve increased judgment as a result of the economic impact of COVID-19 on the group's financial asset. The most significant impact of the implementation of the impairment model is the provisioning policy of the group's investment securities. The group makes judgments regarding the recoverability of investment securities, making certain assumptions and judgments in arriving at the provision for impairment. The group estimates ECL on debt securities using a transition matrix based on historical default rates for each rating grade apart from AAA. Debt securities were placed in categories based on the class and ratings, and loss given default arrive at using the historical recovery rates based on the government and corporate defaults. How our audit address the key audit matters. The group's accounting policy as it relates to the impairment provisioning for debt securities was obtained, and the reasonableness of the impairment provision assessed in relation to the requirement of the standards. We establish an understanding of management's ECL model, including source data, the effectiveness of the implementation, and the mathematical accuracy of the model. We test the reliability of the source data used in design of the model by confirming a sample of the public historical data. We evaluate the appropriateness of management's assumption and judgment in arriving at the loss given default percentage by assessing the factors used in establishing the weighting assigned by management. The main macro factors used were compared to external public information and calculation tested through recomputation. We determined whether the default risk percentage was accurately calculated and correctly applied to the relevant grades of each debt security. We assess the adequacy of the disclosure of the key assumptions and judgments, as well as the details of the transition adjustment for compliance with IFRS 9. Based on the audit procedures performed, no adjustments to the financial statements were deemed necessary. Other key audit matters: valuation of investments classified at fair value. And further notes, you can see notes 3F, 4B, and note 15 of the financial statements for management's related policy and disclosures. 1.05% of the group's investment securities measured at fair value are instruments for which quoted prices are not available and for which one or more of the significant inputs are not based on observable market data. The valuation of these investments requires significant estimation. Management uses valuation techniques which involve unobservable inputs. Investment for which observable market data was limited were classified as levered 3 and valued at $934 million for the group and the company. These investments relate to investments in unquoted equities. Management has determined the fair value of these investments using the income approach and the discounted cash flow method, which involves valuation of the underlying assets of a business based on historical and future projected cash flows. How our audit address the key audit matter. We assess the design and operating effectiveness of the group's control over the determination and computation of the fair values. We assess the reasonableness of the significant assumptions used by management's expert. We involve our valuation specialists to assess the method used by management to determine the fair value, whether it was appropriately based on the information available. We assess the adequacy of the disclosures, including the degree of estimation involved in determining the fair value and sensitivity to changes in key assumptions. Based on our audit procedures performed, no adjustment to the financial statements were deemed necessary. Responsibilities of management and those charged with governance for the financial statements. Management is responsible for the preparation and of the financial statement that give a true and fair view in accordance with IFRS and the requirement of the Jamaican Companies Act, and for such internal control as management determines is necessary to enable the preparation of the financial statements that are free from material misstatements, whether due to fraud or error. In preparing the financial statements, management is responsible for assessing the group's and the company's ability to continue as a going concern, disclosing as applicable matters relating to going concern, and using the going concern basis of accounting unless management intend to liquidate the group and the company or cease operation or has no realistic alternative but to do so. The board of directors is responsible for overseeing the group's and the company's financial reporting process. Management is responsible for the other information. The other information comprises the information included in the annual report, but does not include the consolidated and standalone financial statements and/or auditor's report thereon. The annual report is expected to be made available to us after the date of this auditor's report. Our opinion on the consolidated and standalone financial statements do not cover the other information, and we will not express any form of assurance conclusion thereon. In connection with our audit report of the consolidated and standalone financial statement, our responsibility is to read the other information identified above when it becomes available, and in doing so, consider whether the other information is materially inconsistent with the consolidated and standalone financial statements, or our knowledge obtained in the audit or otherwise appears to be materially misstated. When we read the annual report, if we conclude that there is a material misstatement therein, we are required to communicate the matter to those charged with governance. Auditor's responsibility for the audit of the financial statements. Our objectives are to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the financial statement as a whole are free from material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error, and to issue our auditor's report that includes our opinion. Reasonable assurance is a high level of assurance, but is not a guarantee that an audit conducted in accordance with ISA will always detect a material misstatement when it exists. Misstatement can arise from fraud or error and are considered material if individually or in the aggregate they could reasonably be expected to influence the economic decision of users taken on the basis of these financial statements. As part of an audit in accordance with ISA, we exercise professional judgment and maintain professional skepticism throughout the audit. We also identify and assess the risk of material misstatement of the financial statement, whether due to fraud or error, design and perform audit procedures responsive to those risks, and obtain audit evidence that is sufficient and appropriate to provide a basis for our opinion. The risk of not detecting a material misstatement resulting from fraud is higher than the one resulting from error, as fraud may involve collusion, forgery, intentional omission, misrepresentation, or the override of internal control. Obtain an understanding of internal control relevant to the audit in order to design audit procedures that are appropriate in the circumstances, but not for the purpose of expressing an opinion on the effectiveness of the group's internal control. Evaluate the appropriateness of the accounting policies used and the reasonableness of the accounting estimates and related disclosures made by management. Conclude on the appropriateness of management use of the going concern basis of accounting, and based on the audit evidence obtained, whether a material uncertainty exists related to the events and condition that may cast doubt on the group's and the company's ability to continue as a going concern. If we conclude that a material uncertainty exists, we are required to draw attention in our auditor's report and the related disclosures in the financial statements, or if such disclosures are inadequate, to modify our opinion. Our conclusions are based on the audit evidence obtained up to the date of our auditor's report. However, future events or conditions may cause the group and the company to cease to continue as a going concern. Evaluate the overall presentation, structure, and content of the financial statements, including the disclosures and whether the financial statement represent the underlying transactions and event in a manner that presents a true and fair view. Obtain sufficient, appropriate audit evidence regarding the financial information of the entities or business activities within the group to express an opinion on the consolidated financial statements. We are responsible for the direction, supervision, and performance of the group audit, and we remain solely responsible for the audit opinion. We communicate with the board of directors regarding, among other matters, the plan, scope, and timing of the audit and significant audit findings, including any significant deficiency in internal control that we identify during the audit. We also provide those charged with governance with a statement that we have complied with relevant ethical requirements regarding independence and to communicate to them all relationships and other matters that may reasonably be thought to bear on our independence and whether applicable related safeguard. From the matters communicated with those charged with governance, we determine those matters that were of most significance in the audit of the financial statement of the current period and are therefore the key audit matters. We describe these matters in our auditor's report unless law or regulation precludes public disclosure about the matter, or when in extremely rare circumstances we determine that the matter should not be communicated in our report because the adverse consequences of doing so would reasonably be expected to outweigh the public interest benefit of such communication. Report on additional matters as required by the Jamaican Companies Act. We have obtained all the information and explanations which, to the best of our knowledge and belief, were necessary for the purpose of our audit. In our opinion, proper accounting records have been kept so far as appears from our examination of those records, and the financial statements which are in agreement therewith give the information required by the Jamaican Companies Act in the manner required. The engagement partner on the audit resulting in this independent auditor's report is Balvin Van Riel, BDO Chartered Accountant, 22nd of December, 2022. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Van Riel. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now move into the question and answer segment. As previously advised, we have allotted 15 minutes to address your questions, and so ask that shareholders submit no more than 2 questions each. Madam Secretary, do we have any questions from our shareholders?
Yes, we do, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, shareholders. Just to reiterate, as the chairman indicated just now, we have allotted 15 minutes to answer your questions. I want to remind you that you may submit your questions using the question and answer icon. And for shareholders who wish to ask their questions verbally, you will be allowed to do so once you have indicated a desire to do so by electronically raising your hands. The advisory that we posted to the JC's website last week would have indicated given instructions on how you may do so. Please remember to include your name in asking any questions. So with respect to questions, Mr. Chairman, we have a few, most of which appear to be from one person. First question here is from Mr. Dwight Jackson. What is the time period of the restructuring of Barita Investment, and why changing the name from Barita Investment as it is already a popular name?
So I'll tell that one, Malindo. So, so to be clear, it's not Barita specifically that's being restructured. It's the Cornerstone Group that is being restructured under one financial holding company. So Barita's name will remain the same. What will happen is that Barita and its sister company, Cornerstone Trust and Merchant Bank, will now be reorganized under one financial holding company. Now we're at the early stages of that process. So, the timeline for that at this point is somewhat uncertain. But of course, as more information becomes available, then we'll ensure that our shareholders are adequately advised.
Okay. Next question from David A. Rose. There was a near 65% cut in net interest income for the 6-month period up to March 2023. Barita doesn't publish interest income and interest expense. So with the company increasing repo rates and borrowing at higher rates, such as your recent $9 billion private placement, what is your expected net interest margin/spread going into the remainder of the year? And are you looking to contain loan growth on your books?
Thank you, Malindo. I believe there was a similar question last year about us not giving out information on interest income and expense, but the response I'd given holds still, that the information is there. If you will look at the cash flow statement, you will see the gross interest income and the gross interest expense. And if you subtract one from the other, you will get the net figure that appears on the profit and loss. It's still true. With respect to expected margins, we don't comment on expected margins, and that is subject to market conditions, so we wouldn't be able to say.
Another question from Mr. Rose. Why was the interest... Oh, sorry. Mr. Ramon Small Ferguson wants to add to the response, supplement the response provided by Mr. Broadwater earlier.
Well, actually, it's the response provided by Stephen.
Oh, sorry,
in relation
Stephen.
to the net interest income. I mean, it's a very interesting question, right? Particularly given market conditions. What we have seen in the recent past is an increase in interest rates, both in Jamaica and in certain sections of developed markets, particularly the United States, right? And this has been driven by monetary policy action. So how this has impacted Barita is that by virtue of our on-balance sheet fixed income business, we've seen a situation where our liabilities have been repricing faster than our assets, right? Which has led to a compression in our net interest margins and therefore a decline in the relative return that we get from that segment of our business. That being said, since 2018, 2019 in particular, certainly since the post-acquisition period began, we have been actively seeking to diversify our revenue base because we saw the susceptibility of the business to a change in interest rate environment. So in the 2018 financial year, for example, net interest income represented about a third of the company's revenue, while in the 2022 financial year, that had fallen to about 18-point-something%, right? And that is reflective, again, of the diversification of the overall revenue stack of the business. And we expect to continue to benefit from those diversification effects going forward. But as the interest rate environment shifts into our favor, we expect a resurgence of revenue from that line in future periods.
Okay, thanks for that, Ramon. Second question from Mr. Rose. Why was the interest receivable line item for the audited section of the March 2023 report blank?
Thanks for that, Malindo. It's actually somewhat the other way around. Our typical presentation is to include the interest receivable in the loan receivable line. So the items that reflect the interest receivable really ought not to have been there. They ought to have been rolled into the loan receivable line. That said, with the presentation as it was in that release, the figure that would have appeared is 129,670,000, and that information was available in our audited financials for the year ended 2022 in note 19, I believe it is.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. I'm seeing a question here from Sarah Campbell. The Barita Unit Trust real estate portfolio has grown by 2,157% over a one-year period ending June 26, 2023, in an overall challenging market. Barita has stated that this rise was due to its unit trust investing in MGR Real Estate Holdings Limited. Given that MGR's property holdings are stated to begin development in 2024 and returns from sales are expected in 2 to 3 years, how representative of future returns are the current significant gains, which have been presently attributed to revaluation gains?
All right, so I'll take this one as well. Hopefully, I'll walk the right way to the podium next time. Right? So, it's a good question, right? Based on what we have disclosed publicly, the strategy of MGR is expected to go through 3 phases, right? The first is the property acquisition phase, which the company has been in, right? Acquiring different pieces of property with a view of adding value to them, right? And that leads naturally to the second phase, which is the value add phase or the development or repurposing phase of the strategy's life cycle. And finally, there will be an exit phase where the finished product will be sold or otherwise divested, right? So where MGR is in that life cycle is that it has largely completed the acquisition phase, and the returns that have been reflected thus far have really been reflective of very astute acquisitions, I'd say, right? Property acquisitions that would have been done below fair market. So what we are anticipating, and I guess what the question implies, is that we may not see, it is very unlikely that we'll see this kind of return profile replicating in future periods. Instead, what is likely is that the return profile will shift to that of a more development-driven strategy. So you'll start to see returns from the value add phase where properties are repurposed or properties are developed fully, right? And that return profile is different. Still pretty good on a risk-adjusted basis if you look at benchmarks, but different from what would have been experienced in the past. And finally, it's expected that those returns will be crystallized through exits, right? So not expected to be reflective at all of exactly what you'll see in future periods.
Okay, thank you so much, Ramon. We have a question here from Gilda Faye Daly. Is it Barita that is sending the monthly statements via email or Cornerstone? And why are statements being sent out late? Formerly, they were sent by the 1st or 2nd of the month.
So I'll take that. So thanks for that question, Ilami. So to be clear, it's Barita that sends out the monthly statements. Now, we've recently been upgrading our operations to improve the distribution and the timeliness of the distribution of our statements. And that had become an issue, as our customer base had grown. Now, in parallel, what we're also doing is working to enhance the security around the distribution of our statements to ensure that our customers' data is protected. Now, as we roll that out, unfortunately, we've had some delays, and in some cases, longer than we expected, and we apologize for that. In the meantime, our advisors will be able to provide statements on request, but we encourage you to independently check your balances using Barita Online and also make use of the revamped features of that channel.
Okay, thank you, Dean. Another question here from Mr. Rose. With respect to the gains on investments listed for the 6 months, 3.5 billion was related to the Barita Real Estate Fund under alternative investments. For clarity, can you explain how this gain is recorded to this off-balance sheet asset? And what happened last year with the Barita Real Estate Fund getting exposure to MJR and having a split? Who will be taking that question? Stephen? Okay, let me repeat. With respect to the gains on investments listed for the 6 months, 3.5 billion was related to the Barita Real Estate Fund under alternative investments. For clarity, can you explain how this gain is recorded to this off-balance sheet asset and what happened last year with the Barita Real Estate Fund getting exposure to MJR and having a split?
Okay, so the gain reflects through Barita's holding of units in the real estate fund. Those are marked to the value at any given point in time. And because of increases in the underlying value of the real estate portfolio, the net asset value of those units has increased, and that has been reflected in the gain that sits on Barita's profit and loss statement. With respect to the second part?
The second part of the question is, for clarity, can you explain how this gain is recorded to this off-balance sheet asset and what happened last year with the Barita Real Estate Fund getting exposure to MJR and having a split?
Okay. Ramon, you want to take the split part of things?
Thanks, Stephen. So I think Dane went through it pretty well in his presentation, and a lot of details are contained in the annual report, right? So essentially what would have happened is that the Barita Real Estate portfolio, the unit trust fund, would have acquired the shares of MJR, right? And that transaction would have been completed in June of last year. So what has happened since then is that unit holders of that fund would have been able to benefit or gain exposure to, which just so happened to be a benefit thus far, to the fortunes of MJR by virtue of the fact that the real estate fund now owns MJR, right? So the real estate fund is the sole shareholder of MJR. So that's what would have happened. And as Stephen said, the gains would have flowed through the financial statements based on the accounting principles that he outlined.
Okay, thank you, Ramon. Another question from Mr. Rose. When does Barita expect to get a court date for the proposed Cornerstone reorganization, pending the changes at the Cornerstone Financial and Jamaica level? Also, will Barita Finance Limited continue to operate at similar scale under the consolidated group structure? So I will take the first part of that question. The reorganization process will involve a number of steps, including filing of applications for an interim court order, and in the first instance for the purpose of holding shareholders meeting at which our shareholders will be asked to vote on the scheme of reorganization. Once shareholders have voted on the scheme, we will need to return to court to seek a final court order approving the scheme. Given the number of steps involved in that process, or in the overall process, some of which are outside of our control, we cannot say definitively when we will be able to secure a court date or court dates. But what I can say is that all effort is being made to finalize the reorganization as soon as reasonably possible. And of course, we'll keep our shareholders updated with respect to this matter. Just a reminder as to the second part of the question. Will Barita Finance Limited continue to operate at similar scale under the consolidated group structure?
Thanks, Malindo. So, with respect to Barita Finance, so just to clarify, Barita Finance would not be under the consolidated group structure, right? So, it will continue to remain as an off balance sheet vehicle as it is. We would have made disclosures that the intentions are for prudential purposes for us to show the effect of those special purpose vehicles on our overall financial position in an ongoing way. But just to be clear, the ownership of those entities will not change under the consolidated structure and they will remain off balance sheet, so to speak. That being said, with respect to scale, it is intended for that vehicle to operate opportunistically. It is a structured notes issuance vehicle, so we do have general business targets around size and scale, but it's contingent on market and market demand. But suffice it to say, as opportunities present themselves, we will scale up or scale down that particular strategy as the market dictates and as the business needs. Right?
Okay, thank you, Ramon. I am seeing here a question from Miss Monique French. Has the steep increase in interest rates substantially materially reduced the business feasibility of the real estate investments / projects, including cost of constructing and demand? So Damian Brown will be taking on that question. Just to repeat, has the steep increase in interest rates substantially materially reduced the business feasibility of the real estate investment or projects, including cost of constructing and demand?
The plans for the real estate developments are reflective of market conditions, including interest rates, international activity, and more importantly, our estimates of offtake. We have spent the last few months reviewing the schedule, the likely schedule and considerations for the real estate developments, and our plans will adjust accordingly. Just remind the stakeholders that real estate is a long-term perspective, and therefore our considerations take into account that longer-term perspective and value added. So there are implications, but we continue to see significant value in the real estate portfolio, and we will adjust our strategy to unlock that value accordingly.
Thank you, Damian. I'm seeing a second question from Ms. French. Let's see. Will shareholders get timely and fulsome pre-information on the entire pro forma of what will be under Cornerstone and what will be on balance sheet and off balance sheet, and why ahead of any shareholder meeting? I think she has here, and why ahead of any shareholder meeting. I believe this question is in relation to the reorganization, the scheme of reorganization. And I don't know if Dane will want to add anything, but as part of that process, in order for shareholders to have full information on which to be able to make a decision at the shareholders meeting, they will be provided with a scheme booklet. That scheme booklet will conform with the requirements of the Companies Act that lays out certain things that are to be included in that document. So full information will in fact be provided to shareholder in order for them to make a decision. I don't know if you want to add anything. No? Okay. Okay, I believe we've come to the end of the Q&A session. For those persons whose questions were not answered, we will provide responses at a later date. Over to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. I will now proceed with the ordinary business of the annual general meeting as outlined in the notice of the AGM. May I now ask a shareholder to propose the following resolution to receive and consider the director's report and financial statements for the year ended September 30th, 2022, and the report of the auditors thereon after it has been read by the Secretary.
Okay, it's resolution number 1. that the audited accounts, together with the reports of the directors and the auditors circulated with the notice convening the meeting, be and are hereby adopted.
Will a shareholder please propose the motion?
Ramon
Small Ferguson.
Stephanie Sterling.
May I now ask a shareholder to second the motion? Stephanie Sterling. Shareholders, please now register your votes in the e-platform. You have 2 minutes to do so. Following tallying of the votes relating to this resolution, shareholders have voted in favor of the resolution. I therefore declare the resolution carried. May I now ask a shareholder to propose the following resolution to approve and ratify the interim dividend payments and declare them final after it has been read by the Secretary.
Resolution number 2, that the interim dividends of 3.029 paid on October 7, 2021 and 0.546 paid on June 30, 2022 be treated on the recommendation of the directors as the final dividends for the financial year ended September 30, 2022.
Will a shareholder please propose the motion? Stephanie Sterling, thank you. May I now ask a shareholder to second the motion? Ramon Small Ferguson. Shareholders, please now register your votes in the e-platform. You have 2 minutes to do so. Following tallying of the votes relating to this resolution, shareholders have voted in favor of the resolution. I therefore declare the resolution carried. We now turn to the re-election of directors. Article 93 of the Articles of Incorporation provides that 1/3 of the board retire from office at each annual general meeting. The directors retiring under this article are Messrs. Carl Danville, Paul Simpson, and Robert Drummond, who, being eligible, offer themselves for re-election. May I now ask a shareholder to propose the following resolution to retire and appoint directors under Article 93 of the Articles of Incorporation after it has been read by the Secretary.
Resolution 3A, that Director Carl Domville, who retires by rotation and being eligible for election, be and is hereby re-elected as Director of the company.
Will a shareholder please propose the motion? Stephanie Sterling, thank you. May I now ask a shareholder to second the motion? Ramon Small Ferguson, thank you. Shareholders, please now register your votes in the e-platform. You have 2 minutes to do so.
Barita believes your best path to wealth is the one that works with how you move. We offer ultra customized portfolio management for the discerning clients looking for partial to full portfolio management services at a mutually beneficial fee and other considerations. You tell us your destination and we'll help navigate the roadblocks and obstacles ahead. Visit barita.com/goals to learn how to accelerate your wealth journey and move you closer to your goals.
Following tallying of the votes relating to this resolution, shareholders have voted in favor of the resolution. I therefore declare the resolution carried. We now move to the next resolution, Madam Secretary.
Resolution 3B, that Director Paul Simpson, who retires by rotation and being eligible for re-election, be and is hereby re-elected as Director of the company.
Will a shareholder please propose the motion? Stephanie Sterling. May I now ask a shareholder to second the motion? Ramon Small Ferguson. Shareholders, please now register your votes in the e-platform. You have 2 minutes to do so.
Congratulations to the 5 winners of the pitch deck competition. I'm ecstatic to be a part of your journey. I too know how hard it is to raise capital and build a business. Trust me, I get it. With this burden-free grant, we want you to go out and build a strong business, build your strong family, build a strong Jamaica. We want to create deep impact in the Caribbean, and we'll play our part in getting it done. congrats again.
This is a very important step, but it's a first step. It's very important that you know that there are challenges ahead, but we'll be working with you as best as possible to partner with you through those challenges. At Cornerstone and Barita, we're really big on partnering with businesses. It's not just about financing a deal and to do a transaction. We're in for long-term partnerships, and we're looking forward to partnering with every single one of you to give you the best possible chance.
Entrepreneurship is not an easy path, and therefore we're very proud here at the Cornerstone Group to try and make that path a bit smoother, to take the learnings that the founders and the team here have garnered over the years, and to help make that path for these young and upcoming entrepreneurs that much easier.
Sincere congratulations to our winners.
Following tallying of the votes relating to this resolution, shareholders have voted in favor of the resolution. I therefore declare the resolution carried. We now move to the next resolution.
Resolution 3C, that Director Robert Drummond, who retires by rotation and being eligible for re-election, be and is hereby re-elected a director of the company.
Will a shareholder please propose the motion? Stephanie Sterling, thank you. May I now have a shareholder to second the motion? Ramon Small Ferguson. Shareholders, please now register your votes in the e-platform. You have 2 minutes to do so. Following tallying of the votes relating to this resolution, shareholders have voted in favor of the resolution. I therefore declare the resolution carried. May I now ask a shareholder to propose the following resolution to appoint auditors and authorize the directors to fix the remuneration of the auditors after it has been read by the secretary.
Resolution number 4, that BDO Jamaica, having agreed to continue to serve as auditors, be and are hereby appointed auditors of Barita Investments Limited to hold office until the next annual general meeting at a remuneration to be fixed by the directors of the company.
Will a shareholder please propose the motion? Stephanie Sterling, thank you. Ramon, may I now ask a shareholder to second this motion? Ramon Small Ferguson, thank you. Shareholders, please now register your votes in the e-platform. You have 2 minutes to do so. Following tallying of the votes relating to this resolution, shareholders have voted in favor of the resolution. I therefore declare the resolution carried. May I now ask a shareholder to propose the following resolution to approve and ratify the remuneration for the directors for the year ended September 30th, 2022, after it has been read by the Secretary.
Resolution number 5, that the amount included in the audited accounts of the company for the year ended September 30th, 2022, as remuneration for their services as directors be and is hereby approved.
Will a shareholder please propose the motion? Stephanie Sterling, thank you. May I now ask a shareholder to second the motion? Ramon Small Ferguson, thank you. Shareholders, please now register your votes in the e-platform. You have 2 minutes to do so.
Congratulations to the 5 winners of the pitch deck competition. I'm ecstatic to be a part of your journey. I too know how hard it is to raise capital and build a business. Trust me, I get it. With this burden-free grant, we want you to go out and build a strong business, build your strong family, build a strong Jamaica. We want to create deep impact in the Caribbean, and we'll play our part in getting it done. Congrats again.
This is a
Our wealth management unit is committed to boosting your money power so that you can reach your goals and achieve your dreams. When you win, we win, and we know that together there's nothing we can't accomplish. For 45 years, we've been helping our clients get ahead, and our team is always looking for new ways to make sure that every client is moving alongside us. Some of our most notable accomplishments include bolstering our capital base to be among the strongest in the industry, arranging the largest junior market APO in the middle of the pandemic, leading the largest cross listing on the Jamaica Stock Exchange, facilitating the purchase of 3 US companies by a Jamaican firm, and cultivating a portfolio of prized real estate assets. We're 45 years and going strong. Change.
Following tallying of the votes relating to this resolution, shareholders have voted in favor of the resolution. I therefore declare the resolution carried. Ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end of today's meeting. As you would have heard from the various presentations and discussions today, challenges abound, but your company not only continues to ably navigate them, but management continues to be very discerning in managing the various risks, resources, and affairs of the company in general, with the objective of optimizing the profitability of the company for your benefit. We want to thank you for your continued trust and confidence in the directors and management team, which we do not take lightly. Finally, we understand that there may have been questions submitted that we were unable to address within the allotted time. For those shareholders who asked unanswered questions and have provided us with their email addresses, we want to assure you that we will make every effort to provide you with direct responses within 10 working days. We extend our gratitude to all of you for attending this meeting. We urge you to continue to prioritize the safety and well-being of yourselves and your families. Again, thank you for your participation, and we appreciate your continued support. Good day.